Hi, and welcome to AlphaBits. AlphaBits is an outlet for our inquisitive minds. We can't stop experimenting with new technology, and we want to share what we're playing with you. We're your hosts, Brian and David.
Hi, I'm David, the founder of the Raw Code Academy and perpetual learner, always playing with new cool tools that I'm going to share with you as part of this podcast.
And I'm Brian. I'm a developer advocate at Amazon, and I love all the shiny new toys in tech. It's kind of my passion is testing out the new stuff and seeing what's cool.
So I will start the demo joy by sharing my terminal. So this is, and there's no graphical interface to this. It's only a login shell on my laptop. And if I do something like lsplk, you can see the USB key that it's booted off of, and then the physical disk that have been claimed as persistence data spots for Lightwhale's Docker container. So it keeps Docker images on one partition and persistent data on another. And so when I reboot, it will still boot off of the USB key, but all of my Docker container stuff it's on the physical disk. It's a really neat way to do things. So let's just look. Again, this is BusyBox, so there aren't a ton of things on the host. When the operating system itself is tiny, and I have a Docker Compose directory here. And inside that are all of the things that I run internally for my own bits. I've got Caddy as my reverse proxy. I've got Coder for coding environments, Paperless NGX for document storage, syncing, and Vault Warden for password sharing. So if I cd into one of those like Caddy and show the Docker Compose file, you can see that we've got my Docker storage set to home op persist. So any data that is in the container will be in a completely different directory on the host, which I can just back up, which I do just back up. And I can just do Docker Compose stuff like normal. And you can see the logs for Caddy. Nothing exciting is going on there. So this is actually really exciting because it's the lowest footprint you can get for a hosting environment. There's really nothing you could do that's smaller than this operating system. And the point is you don't really have any system updates to do because you've got a stable kernel, you've got a stable version of Docker. And so the only maintenance you need to worry about is keeping your containers backed up properly. So it's super exciting. And I've been using it for about a month now. I worked with the developer to get NVMe support because the scripts originally didn't support NVMe disks. So I submitted an issue and he got that fixed up later. So this is, it's called Lightwhale. And if you just Google search for Lightwhale, you can find it. It's super awesome. So that's demo 1. Let's go to demo 2. So this is, I'm testing this in a virtual machine on my host. So this is just a KVM virtual machine with another instance of Bluefin. So let's log in as me. And let's show off the interesting bits here. So if we let's see, password, you can see that I've got 3 extra users created here: locked user, confined user, and full user. And those are demo users to show the different levels of isolation that you can get per container. So locked user doesn't have any access to the local disk. The only thing that user can do is touch the storage in the Docker volume that's assigned, the container volume that's assigned. Confined user has access to their own directory, their home directory, but can't do anything else much at all. And then full user has access to becoming sudo and doing root things, and also has persistent disk storage. So if I change to root here, let's go to var home. You can see the 3 users. Let's go full U. And I'll show you how we set this up. So if we go into config, containers, systemd, there is a container definition file. This is a quadlet definition. This is Red Hat flavored Docker Compose layered on systemd. So let's PI that. And what we could see is it's a standard systemd unit. Before it starts, it's going to make the user's data persistence directory. It's going to run the container image Fedora toolbox, name it podmansh. And this is important, remap users inside and outside the container because Podman's rootless. So this is using cgroups to maintain the user ID and group inside the container. I have SE Linux disabled because I don't have it working yet, and I don't know how, so that's a study issue for me. Run init means it's going to run systemd, and we're going to keep the data directory at the home, and the capital Z is a SE Linux labeling attribute. Workdir is the home directory, and what it's going to do is exec sleep infinity. So as soon as this person logs in, the container will start, and this will just keep the container running while the person's logged in. I also set the network level to host, so I don't have NAT and contained networking. So that's all I have to do for this user. And then if you look at the password, you can see that the user's login shell is set to user bin podmansh. So that's it. We defined a container that's going to be this user's login shell. And I can do...
So how do you configure the difference between the full user and the confined user? Like, where's that configured?
So that's actually all in the container file we just looked at. So the podman args and the volume, you would change those to different levels. Like if we look at, go to the docs, documentation, and search for podmansh. But this one page, by the way, is all of the documentation that exists, one man page. So they've got some examples on here that show the various levels of lockdown. So the first one, the locked U, has absolutely no access to the host OS, and it drops all capabilities, no new privileges. This is a completely locked down and secure user environment, which is good and bad. You're not going to get a lot done in there, but you're not going to get a lot done in there, so that's good. Then the confined user uses remap users, so it keeps the user ID and it has access same as you would on the host. So you can have data stored in local disk that appears as your home directory there. And then the final one, and this is the example that I'm roughly based on, but I can't get all of this SE Linux stuff to work because SE Linux is a mystery to everyone. So this one is also running in a container, but it has the ability to escalate to root, and it can run containers inside the container. So it can run nested containers, which I haven't got working yet either. So let's try to SSH as that user. So we'll SSH full U at localhost. Accept the key, type in my password, and it blows up. It broke. Don't know why. Let's find out. Why?
Maybe try a different user. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go. I got one that time. So who am I? I'm full U, and if I cd to my home, I'm at var home full U. Let's ls. So there's a file called some file. Let's I don't even know if vi exists. so now if I SU, you can see that some file is not here. It's actually in the data directory. So when I am inside the container environment, my home is this data directory, because that's the way we set it up in the container quadlet definition. So I can do some pretty cool stuff, like change the container. Oops. Too fast with the keyboards here. So right now it's running Fedora Toolbox, but what if I wanted to run a completely different container? I don't know if there is an Ubuntu Toolbox in that registry. Let's look at my host. I'll get a good example. So here's an Ubuntu example we can use. Will let me. All right, so we'll change this from a Fedora to Ubuntu. And now if I log out, log back in.
So do you not need to restart the systemd service?
Nope, because it's really a daemon. It's a login shell, so it container stops running when you log out and starts running when you log back in.
Okay.
So now I can cat OS release.
Oh yeah.
And you can see I'm running Ubuntu now instead of Fedora.
Neat. So
if I had it set up, I could do apt update, apt install things. That's one of the sticky parts right now, is that the user management is on the host operating system, and it doesn't copy in like the Etsy shadow. So I have to reset my username or my user password in order to get root access. And I have scripts to do that right now. I'm hoping there's some way I can change the init system to do that automatically, and then this will become a pretty neat tool. So that is my demo. Completely contained user environments in containers. And the last bit to show you is that this is not just at the level of terminals. If I log out, I can log in as that user and get a desktop environment where everything is still contained. So open terminal, and I've got my Ubuntu environment, but I'm clearly in my Fedora GNOME window here. So pretty slick. I'm excited to see where I can take this. I'm sure I can abuse it a lot. The question is, will it be practical and useful to do so? So that's my demo for today.
Very cool. All right, so you should be able to see my web browser. This is Infisical Cloud. So everything is open source, remember, but I have set a few things up just for the demo today. So I have an organization called Raw Code Academy where I could invite people. I have a project called Raw Code Cloud, and if we explore that, we can see the different environments that have been configured. Now, these are arbitrary. They don't need to be dev, staging, and prod, but that's what they are out the box. You're welcome to tweak it. What's nice is that we have these two properties, cloud dev name and password. We can see that they're set in dev, but not in staging and production. So, we could go into here and start to provide those values if we wanted, or we could just explore dev and we can just click and see what the values are. So from a perspective of managing secrets, you just add stuff in the web UI, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, and then click save. These are all very much like Git, and that you can, I guess on the cloud version, we'd need to host it ourselves, but you can see the differences, and there's a complete log of the changes. We got the audit log over here. So now, one of the things I like about the cloud version is that it has all of these integrations. So one of my pet peeves. Just like, it's nice to keep secrets in one location, but you always need them in third-party services like GitHub Actions, right? We want to be able to get our secrets in one place over there without having to do like a dual commit and update them in multiple places. With this, you can just click integrate with GitHub. It allows you to approve the app, and you can tell it to sync this project to a repository's secrets in GitHub. And then whenever anything changes here, it automatically updates GitHub for you, and they get the new credential, which is also a nice touch. So let's drop down to my CLI, where we can run Infisical run, and I could run a print env, where we have one environment variable called cloud dev name, and this will automatically be injected, and then it prints it out here. We can also do the same for password. So the idea being our workflow becomes, npm run dev or whatever the command is, or for the Go developers, go run main.go, etc. And all you need to do is prefix it with this Infisical run, and your environment is automatically injected for you, which is pretty cool. There are a couple more things that you can do. So if we do Infisical help, they have a scan command, which will actually scan your Git history and any files in the local directory to see if any of your secrets have been committed now or even in the past, and give you a way to kind of, you just have to know that they've been committed to kind of clean it up and rebase and get rid of all the bad stuff at some point. So the way that this works, I ran Infisical run without specifying like the project or the environment or anything, but everything is just inside a JSON file.
Okay.
So this workspace ID is actually my Rockcode Cloud project, and I've set the default environment to be staging. And you can tweak that to your heart's content.
Oh, nice. And you can change environments by changing to a different Git branch too. That's slick.
Yeah, so you can have it like if you're on the main branch, then it's probably going to use your production environment if you wanted it to, and if you're on a dev branch or non-main branch, then it can use another environment. So there are loads of little things you can set up like that. The whole web interface, it's quite nice. It's got things that I haven't seen in similar solutions, like this folder approach. So like from here, you can actually say that you want to create a new folder, and these work like let's call it sub-project.
Like a namespace?
Yeah, so we can now come into the sub-project. Oh, there we go. And we can now add more secrets at a different level. So we could have password, ABC, 1, 2, 3, and save. So you can give people access. So it's kind of like a security boundary. I could say that you only have access to the sub-project secrets, whereas I would have access to all of the secrets. So if you've got a mono repository, for instance, this would be a good way to do it. Or if you just want to separate concerns, maybe you've got like AWS secrets, Cloudflare secrets, and you want to just contain them all slightly separately, then the folders are quite a nice way of doing that. They also implement one of my favorite features from Doppler, which is secrets referencing. So if we come into the sub project, we could say root secret, and then that can actually be a reference. I'm not going to be able to remember how to do this now. Let's see. It's something like secret, and it takes a full path within this project. So we could say something like that. So you can reference up and down the stack. You cannot reference across project, which is something that Doppler does quite well. But I think I kind of prefer the approach that Infisical have taken with it. So I just think it's a cool project. Full disclosure, it's not something that I'm running for any real project yet, but I do think it's something that I may use for secrets management moving forward. So I'm still fully in the 1Password camp right now, and I use the 1Password CLI in a very similar fashion. But I do like the integrations that they offer to sync to GitHub, to Cloudflare. In fact, if we look at the integrations, it's pretty vast, right? So you can go to AWS Secrets Manager, Circle CI, GitHub, Fly.io, which I'm starting to use a bit more, Cloudflare Pages, I use an awful lot, and then obviously Terraform Cloud and stuff. So it's just neat. And the last thing I'll say, these framework integrations are fantastic too. So like even if you don't want to run Infisical run on your CLI, you can actually just have the JavaScript SDK pull secrets out within the code of your application. Wow. And as long as you have a service account token to speak to Infisical, then it will just work. So that's another pretty neat way of doing it as well. I wonder if there's a quick code sample I could show here. Where's React should be enough. Nope. Framework integration. A bit next. No. Node to .NET. Am I not seeing something here? Where's the code? Oh, never mind. There is a complete SDK.
That's awesome.
Physical Node.js. I feel like I have to find it now. There we go. Because I was on it recently. So, yeah. So you can just create your client, and they have service account tokens, so you don't have to pretend to be a person. And then you just say, "Hey, get my secret," and then it's available in your application. So, yeah, really cool project, and hopefully I can get more stuff or get some stuff moved on to it at some point.
I love it. I'm 100% going to self-host some of this.
Yeah, I believe the requirements are just, it's a Node.js TypeScript application. It requires a database, which is MongoDB. And as long as you satisfy both of those, then you have a fully managed secrets environment that you can run anywhere. They actually have a starter thing. So if you come to Infisical on GitHub, they have like a one-click deploy to EC2 and DigitalOcean as well.
Wow.
Very cool.
Nice. And they can self-host with Docker Compose, so I'm going to go put it on my Light Whale box.
Yeah, I was considering doing a Docker Compose up as part of the demo, and I thought, no, that's not important. Just show the product. So there we go.
Very sweet. Good demos today.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go a bit more alpha for the next one, considering you showed two things that have barely any documentation. So.
You've got things with docs and Docker Compose files, and that is way too beta for me. Let's get a little. I mean,
deeper, it's still a 0.9 release, so it's still very early. But I think the project's been around about 5 months now, and I think they're funded. I think it took off when people seen it, and they're now trying to build a business around it. So best of luck to them.
Yeah, I love this. This is great. Going to make some.
All right.
Awesome. Good week.
Well, that's it.
I like this one.
Yeah. See you next week.
Cheers.
If you want to hear why we showed off these tools, check out the podcast available at alphabits.fm. Until next week, see you soon.